What's good up, everyone? PGPYT here, coming back to you, uh, coming back to you with another video. And today, I want to sort of follow on from my last video where I talked about Sega games coming to Evercade and why it should happen. And I want to talk about basically why Sega could re-enter the home console market now. I know a lot of people will be like, well, they haven't got the money, they haven't got the revenue to compete with the big three, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and that's true. That's true. What I'm thinking is how Sega could join re-enter the console market, a sort of a niche product compared to like the similar to like the Atari VCS or the Evercade VS or the ever delayed Intelligent Amico, which will probably never come out. Now, what can Sega do? Well, first of all, Sega, has been widely known as an arcade developer since its inception. So they could utilize some of the boards that they've used for that to create a console. You know, but the question then becomes, would it be able to, run certain games and whatnot? Now, Sega first of all has a plethora of franchises which are either dormant or they have tons of which they could just utilize to help make this Sega. We'll call it the Sega box for now, right? The Sega box, look appealing to a new consumer. Those would be, games like the whole Sonic franchise, like getting games from like Sonic Advance, Sonic, Sonic Dash, and all these Sonic 3D Jam. You know, these games which are lesser known and weren't ported to as many consoles. Obviously there's Sonic 1, Sonic 2, and the classics, but you'd also have these other like lesser known Sonic games made available to consumers through this platform. They could do a whole flashback Friday thing, similar to how Atari does it, and boom, there you go. That's all the Sonic games in one place. Not to mention they could also do the same with Yakuza. And Yakuza is a huge franchise as of right now. Getting all the Yakuza games on the same like this Sega box would just be basically just Sega games. So you'd have the Yakuza games, you'd have like Shenmue, you'd have Crazy Taxi, you'd have Golden Axe, you'd have, Virtua Fighter. They'd have there's this huge plethora of games within Sega's back catalogue, which could do a second life, which could, this platform could use to like, revitalize these franchises. I mean, Streets of Rage 4 did a really great job of revitalizing that franchise. And, Sonic, I think it's like Sonic Forces is a new one. That's, it's kind of like, everything kind of depends on them. Because from what I've heard, Sega's in a lot of debt. Sega's in like $4 billion in debt or something like that. So people have been saying that they want Microsoft to buy them. People are saying they want them to merge with Nintendo. I kind of want Sega to just be their own thing, and I do wish Sega could like re-enter the console market and be this huge competitor. But I know that's not possible. Now Sega does own developers like Atlas and Relic Entertainment, who produces games like Humankind and obviously the Persona series. So getting those games on a Sega box as well could help make this whole Sega box thing idea a reality. Because I remember a few, like, I think this is still going around, but there's something called the Dreamcast 2 rumor that was floating around the internet for a while on how Sega was apparently going to re-enter the console market with a Dreamcast 2, which never materialized. So I do think Sega could redo it. I do think Sega could come back and use their huge plethora of games and IPs to really appeal to the classic audience. But the question then becomes, how many of these new Sega games are going to launch on this platform? Because remember, the Atari VCS isn't just old Atari games; it's also modern Atari games. But also, how many games is going to be on the platform? How often a new game is going to be added? You know, uh, is how the emulation is going to be? Because remember, Sega, besides Sega Mega Drive slash Genesis, the other Sega consoles are either it's hard to emulate or have so little emulation that it's near impossible to emulate. Like no one talks about emulating the Game Gear or Dreamcast or the what's the other one or the Master System. And the Sega Saturn is known to be one of the hardest consoles to emulate because of its infrastructure. So that would be it'd be cool to see Sega sort of bring back some of their classic games and make them for this Sega box thing. And I do think Sega could become a major player in the game industry, just not one of the major three. Because people have been saying for years that they think Microsoft's going to buy Sega. If they do, okay, that benefits no one really, because Sega's IP library, yes, is vast, but Microsoft only has Bethesda, and Microsoft's just buying Activision. So why would they need Sega? Yeah, they could break into the Japanese market, but Microsoft just kind of at this point, Microsoft might as well just accept that they can't crack the Japanese market. But yeah, they've got one Japanese developer in, you know, what's it called? Tango Gameworks. But besides them, there's no real reason for Microsoft to really push into Japan that much. Besides that, Sega has, a variety of titles that are just dormant. They haven't really done anything with for years. So bringing back some of their classic games or making them available to people to purchase digitally through the Sega Box idea could lead to more people being interested in more revivals of these franchises. Because one of Sega's goals within this decade is to revive old franchises. Now I would be up for a new Golden Axe. I want a new Golden Axe. I want another Alex Kidd. I want another Streets of Rage. But Sega's not really doing them. They're like, here's another Sonic game. Here's another Yakuza. Here's a bunch of stuff from Atlas that we publish, and here's a bunch of stuff like Humankind. Which, okay, cool. You got variety, but it's just not enough in my opinion. But yeah, personally, the Sega Dreamcast 2 rumor is something I really like the idea of. I thought it was sounded great when I first heard of it. A Sega all digital Sega console where you can download whatever Sega game you want from Sega's history. It'd be great. But then as I started to learn more about it, I started to be like, oh well, how would this work? Like I get the whole idea of like launching a game on the Sega box, making it like huge. Like, hey, now you can play these Sega games wherever you want, well, not wherever you want, but on this console, which is designed by Sega, made by Sega, and there's only games from Sega. But remember, like, making the hardware for all these consoles need to be cost effective for these companies. So if it's not cost effective for Sega to release a new console, why would they do it? Second of all, Sega probably sells millions and millions of copies of their games yearly, if not billions of games yearly, on pre-existing platforms, like Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft platforms, as well as PC. So why would they decide to move all their games to this new platform? And remember, Sega left the console market after the Dreamcast, right? After their fourth home console. So they don't really. It's clear that they're not interested in reviving that. It's clear they don't want to come back into the console market. And while Sega is in a lot of debt, and being bought out by someone like Microsoft would help them, would benefit them greatly. Giving them more resources uh, to put into their games. It does also bring up the question of how long Sega would last, and that image about being like started like crushed and molded into something different. Because remember Sega Sammy, right, is not Sega. It's not the same Sega as it was in the 90s and 80s. Now their focus is all about pachinko, basically. And third high budget games become a second fiddle to them. So I kind of got to admit, I do kind of hope Sega does make a console again, or I do hope Microsoft buys them or Nintendo buys them. So someone buys Sega and makes all their games available in like a Game Pass like subscription service because it would work. But personally, I don't think I don't think Sega is going to make a new console anytime soon. That's just me, guys. So let me know how you think in the comments down below. Make sure you like, subscribe. Like, hopefully we do get Sega games on the Evercade. That's what I want. That's what I want quite deeply. Getting Sega's arcade library on the Evercade would be amazing. But I don't see anything like Sega making a new console happening anytime soon, if ever. But yeah, that's just me, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you all next episode. Peace.